Hello and welcome to this short presentation on studying Russian in Trinity College Dublin as part of the Trinity College Virtual Open Day. My name is Justin Doherty. I am one of the lecturing staff in the Department of Russian and Slavonic Studies in Trinity College. The Department of Russian and Slavonic Studies in Trinity is actually the only centre of Russian and Slavonic Studies in the Republic of Ireland, in fact on the island of Ireland altogether. So we have a unique role to play in this area in promoting study of Russian and other languages, cultures from the Slavonic language family on the island of Ireland, as well as Russian, which is our core activity and area of expertise. We also have colleagues in the department whose areas of specialism cover the languages, literatures, history and culture of Central and Eastern Europe more widely, with expertise in as well as Russian, Bulgarian, Czech, Polish, Croatian, and also in the history and culture of Hungary. So you might be wondering why Russian could be an interesting and useful thing to study. You might have a background in the Russian language. It could be the language your family speak, or it could be that you're just curious to know more. And if you are and you have a flair for languages, then Russian is a very rewarding and interesting language to take. It's an important language in a global and European context, spoken as a first or second language by more than 200 million people around the world. Most of those people in the Russian Federation itself, but throughout the countries of the former Soviet Union, and through people emigrating in the modern kind of global world, pre-COVID world anyway. Russian has been brought to many countries all around the world. According to European Commission information, Russian is the 5th most commonly spoken second language across the EU. Over 30 million EU citizens are speakers of Russian as a first or second language. So it's an important language in the broader European context, as well as clearly being the dominant language in the Russian Federation itself. In terms of what Russian is like as a language, it belongs in the same Indo-European language family as English and Irish and all of the other prominent European languages people may have studied at secondary level: French, German, Spanish, Italian and so on. The grammar of Russian is a bit different from English, but there is much in common. There's much common vocabulary and common roots of words. You can see on the screen here, Russian has its own writing system, its own alphabet, the so-called Cyrillic, Russian version of the Cyrillic alphabet, which sometimes seems a bit of a daunting thing to new learners of the language, but it really is the least of anybody's worries. It just takes a few days to get your head around and get used to it, and you're up and running very quickly. So while it's possibly for some people an unfamiliar language, it's not exotic and remote in any way. It's a very approachable language for people whose first language is another European language. We also need to mention the fact that Russia has a very rich and interesting cultural legacy, a very rich and interesting history. Given that Russia stands between East and West, between Europe and Asia, it has characteristics in some ways of both of those dominant worlds. It has one of the world's great modern literatures. People might be aware of names like Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, Chekhov, Turgenev, Pushkin. Can go on for a long time. There are many more literary treasures to discover. It has a very rich musical and artistic legacy. People are probably aware of things like the Russian ballet tradition, which has been widely exported around the world, but many other aspects of the cultural legacy are worth exploring. Russia has a very fascinating recent history with the revolutions of 1917, the establishment of a communist system, the Second World War, the collapse of communism in more recent times, the way in which Russia has changed as a society in post-Soviet times, adapted to globalization and other things. Outside of COVID restrictions anyway, these things have created enormous opportunities for people to work and study and travel in Russia and other former Soviet states. And so people graduating with a degree in Russian have all kinds of opportunities to travel and work in Russia and other post-Soviet countries. So the nitty-gritty of how you study Russian in Trinity. The first pathway is the joint honours pathway, where Russian can be combined with one other subject. These are the subjects that currently can be combined with Russian. So most of the other languages and other arts, humanities disciplines. Russian also participates in 3 combined degree programs. First of all, European Studies, where 2 languages are studied in parallel alongside humanities disciplines. And then in their 3rd year, students specialise in one of those languages. That becomes their major language. They spend a year on an approved programme in a country of that language and then graduate with a major in that language. So Russian, if it's Russian, it's the major language. Similarly with business studies and a language, that programme is 2/3 business, 1/3 language. Just one language is taken. Again, it has the 3rd year integrated study abroad year at a partner institution for Russian. It's the University of St. Petersburg. And then the 3rd combined degree programme where Russian has a presence is the Middle Eastern and European Language and Cultures degree. So students take 1 European language, 1 Middle Eastern language in parallel. So when Russian is the chosen language, that also allows for study abroad in Russia for 1 semester of the 3rd year, and then study in the relevant Middle Eastern country for the 2nd semester of that 3rd year abroad. So those programs all have the integrated year abroad as a feature in the 3rd year of the 4 years of study. So going back to the joint honours pathways, just to explain, I'm sure people will already know a little bit about this, but there are numerous different variants of the joint honours pathway, which depends on how much of one of your 2 subjects you study as you progress through the years. So We have the possibility of a pure joint degree where each subject is equal right the way through. That's option 4 on this page. We have the option of turning your joint pathway into a single honours degree, where you would drop your second subject in years 3 and 4 and specialise in just one of your joint subjects in your final 2 years. It gives you a single honours degree. Just to say that if that single honours subject is Russian, that opens up the possibility of studying a second Slavonic language as part of your Russian pathway. So for the years 3 and 4, you could be studying Polish, Croatian or Bulgarian as part of your degree. So that's an interesting kind of variant. So the other routes are numbers 2 and 3 here, major with minor, where the balance is slightly different. It's more in one subject. The other has a smaller presence, but it's still maintained right the way through the degree. So say you're studying Russian and English, you can major in English, minor Russian, or major in Russian with minor English, and that affects how many credits in each of those subjects you're taking in your 3rd and 4th years. So that's the joint honours pathway. So it's more straightforward than it perhaps looks on paper. And the advantage of this one is that you can come in as a joint on the joint pathway and then see how you get on with your 2 subjects, and if you feel more comfortable or find one more rewarding than the other, then you can balance the degree as suits you best. So you might then be asking yourself what you can do with a degree in Russian. And I think here the key thing to emphasise, other than this being a route into working in the sort of Russian-speaking world in some form or other, whether that's kind of based here in Ireland or somewhere else outside of Russia, but with a link up with Russia, or whether that's actually based over there. People have found all kinds of interesting employment routes doing both of those things, amongst recent graduates from our department. But typical career pathways that open up to people who have a language degree would be working in, I won't read these out in turn, but first of all, arts and media would be a well-trodden pathway. Business and finance, especially, but not exclusively, for people who've taken the business studies and Russian degree. Civil service, public service, and international organisations of different kinds, both official and NGO type organisations are a popular career pathway. And then finally education. The Russian isn't commonly studied at secondary level in Irish schools. That's becoming a little more widespread than it was once upon a time. But education in one capacity or other is a pathway, particularly people with a joint language degree. So I think it's worth emphasising, and other people will say the same thing, that having a degree in any arts humanities area from a university like Trinity will open doors, particularly if you come out with a strong result. You've shown yourself to have lots of what we call transferable skills in things like being good communicators, being able to process information and present kind of digested forms of things in an effective way, to give presentations, to persuade, to argue, to research effectively. All of those skills are things that you'll acquire as an arts humanities student. And then with a subject like Russian, you have the added advantage of foreign language skills, which is skill which is highly prized by many employers. So we'll just finish by saying in Russian "Спасибо за внимание." Thanks for listening and watching, and please do feel free to talk to people from the department who'll be available on the day itself for contact virtually, and hope to meet some of you through that route. Thanks.